and side congruence, okay? So that's angle, angle, side. And we've already spoken about side, angle, side. Okay, well, I think we're pretty familiar with this one. We know that in this case, we need to show that two pairs of sides are congruent and one pair of angle is congruent. And we know that the angle needs to be in between, right? We see that the angle needs to be in between. Now, for side congruence, right? This is actually a simpler one. This is where we show that three sides are congruent. So in this case, we have a triangle and we have another triangle. Well, these are congruent. This here are congruent. And lastly, this side is also congruent. Therefore, the triangles must be congruent. And then we also have the idea where we have two pairs of angles being congruent and the side in between the angle be congruent. So let's look at an example here. Let's look at an example where we would have to apply that knowledge. Let's see. Here's the given. So M is the midpoint. Okay, it's a midpoint of HP. Now, what does midpoint mean, right? It means that it's the halfway mark, okay, between HM and HP. It's the halfway mark of HP. So what do we know based on that? Well, I know that HM is congruent to MP. I also know that the measure of angle H is equal to the measure of angle P. Well, the measure of angle H is equal to the measure of angle P. Okay? And lastly, I have an angle, a side, and guess what? These angles are also congruent. And why are they congruent? Well, these two are vertical angles, aren't they? So, I have an angle, a side, and an angle. Therefore, triangle PMR is congruent to triangle HMG, and this is true by angle, side, angle, isn't it? And so now we know that three properties for triangle congruence, okay? We have three properties for triangle congruence. If your triangle meets angle, side, or side, then you know that the triangles must be congruent. We know that if the triangles are congruent, then there exists a rigid motion that maps one to the other, correct? So what is the rigid motion that maps triangle PMR to triangle HMG? What is the rigid motion? Can you think of it? I'll see you tomorrow in class.